The aim of this lesson is to help Year 12 students understand what HSC markers are looking for in the area of study discovery. This understanding will assist them with their study, essay writing and creative writing for Paper 1. The markers spell out what they want students to understand about the concept of discovery in the rubric. Although the rubric may initially appear quite intimidating, I think it can be broken down into 4 questions. What is discovery? What instigates discovery? What determines how we respond to discovery? And what are the consequences of discovery? The rubric defines discovery when it says discovery can encompass the experience of discovering something for the first time or rediscovering something that has been lost, forgotten, or concealed. In the text they study, students need to identify what types of discoveries occur for the characters or persona in the text, and also their own discoveries as a responder. Some of the different types of discoveries are rediscovery, self-discovery, an epiphany, or an awakening. A discovery may be an act of serendipity, a pleasant surprise, or zemblenity, an unpleasant unsurprise. I also think pinpointing the type of discovery is vital for your own creative writing, as I believe the internal discoveries, the rediscovery, self-discovery, epiphany, eureka moment, awakening, or anagnorisis, are what markers will score higher than a purely physical discovery. As Marcel Proust said, the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. Make sure the characters or persona in your creative writing has new eyes at the end of your text. Once you've established the type of discovery that occurs, you need to investigate what instigates or causes the discovery. Is the discovery accidental or planned? Has it been evoked by curiosity, necessity, or wonder? Some questions that are beneficial to ask yourself about the discovery in the text are: what is the discovery? Who made the discovery? How and why did the discovery occur? Was the response to the discovery spiritual, physical, intellectual, creative, and/or emotional? These responses are straight from the rubric, which says discoveries can be fresh and intensely meaningful in ways that may be emotional, creative, intellectual, physical, and spiritual. The way I remember these responses is to think of spice. I love the fact that the rubric is directed at students so personally. The rubric states, through composing and responding to a wide range of texts, students may make discoveries about people, relationships, societies, places, and events, and generate new ideas. The rubric also states that by synthesizing perspectives, students may deepen their understanding of the concept of discovery. It is essential that students recognize that all texts are constructs. It doesn't matter how objective they appear, they are subjective. We are conditioned to believe that textual forms such as non-fiction memoir is truthful. This means that if you're studying the motorcycle diaries, you need to dismiss the idea that a memoir is truthful and analyse how Guevara makes conscious choices about the language and form that he uses to convey his perspective of events. This is what the rubric is asking you to think and write about when it states, students consider ways composers may invite them to experience discovery through their texts and explore how the process of discovering is represented using a variety of language modes, forms, and features. You also need to recognise that you have assumptions about text, and these assumptions will influence how you respond to the representation of discovery in the text. A quick definition of some of the key terms that you need to be aware of. Language modes categorise the different sets of skills in responding and composing. Forms refer to the text type of the work. Features refer to the techniques that help the composer to convey their message and shape meaning in the text. I think it's wonderful how the rubric recognises how we all respond to text very personally. I might read the same poem that you do, and I may love it, and you may hate it. This variation is due to the fact that we as responders all bring our own perspectives into our evaluation of a text. As such, we all experience text and the discoveries represented in text differently. In responding to a text, a responder's discoveries are a synthesis, which means combining of their own perspectives with the composer's perspectives. Context shapes perspectives. The responder and composer each have their own experience, culture, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, and age that influence his or her perspectives. You are asked to consider context in the rubric. An individual's discovery and their process of discovery can vary according to personal, cultural, historical, and social contexts and values. To give you an example of how context shapes perspective, I recently watched Finding Nemo with my 4-year-old son. The film explores a variety of human experiences, albeit through anthropomorphism. However, I believe that a father's desire to protect his child is the central humanistic idea of the film. This desire is conveyed when Marlin, heartbroken after the death of his wife, assures Nemo that I will never let anything happen to you. Marlin's overprotectiveness as a parent is the source of conflict between the two characters that causes Nemo to rebel against Marlin's authority. However, Marlin's view of what constitutes good parenting is transformed during his journey to find Nemo, and although Marlin physically finds Nemo, the real story is how Marlin finds himself and conquers his own fears. Watching the film in 2016 with my son, I realised that I have to let my children make their own mistakes in order for them to discover themselves and their world. However, it's an enormous challenge for a parent to juggle the desire to keep his or her child safe and the child's need for freedom. And I don't think you can fully appreciate this struggle until you're a parent yourself. I first watched Finding Nemo as a childless 22-year-old. Now, as a 35-year-old father of 2 kids, I find myself empathising with the character of Marlin, Nemo's father, who just wants to protect his son. For me, there was an experience of discovery through my engagement with the film, which affirmed my own beliefs and values around parenting, and it offered me a new understanding and a renewed perception of myself. I think Finding Nemo might be a really interesting text to compare and contrast with The Tempest, as both texts explore a father's love for his child, and both fathers experience self-discovery during the course of the text. It's absolutely crucial that you think about the consequences or the ramifications of the discovery in the text. The impact of these discoveries can be far-reaching for the individual and for the broader society. In human history, Robert Oppenheimer's creation of the atomic bomb has had perhaps the most far-reaching impact on the world. This discovery was spiritual, physical, intellectual, creative, and emotional. Upon the successful test of the first bomb, Oppenheimer famously quoted the Bhagavad Gita, "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I think the creation of the atomic bomb would be really interesting to use as the inspiration for a piece of creative writing on discovery. The creation of the bomb is certainly a discovery that could be questioned or challenged when viewed from different perspectives, and it's worth reassessed over time. The ramification of its discovery differs for individuals and their worlds. You could write about Oppenheimer, the pilot who dropped the bomb, from the perspective of someone who lived in Hiroshima, maybe a descendant of someone who died at Hiroshima, maybe looking at an old photograph. Maybe this character is ironically named Robert. I think this would be fascinating to write about. I know that I've really jumped around the rubric for discovery in this lesson. If you want to do well in HSC English, it's vital that you know the rubric for the area of study and modules back to front. It's also vital that you check out what the markers for the HSC for the previous year, what feedback they've provided. The first piece of feedback from the markers of the 2015 Discovery essay was that candidates showed strength in synthesizing a response to the question with elements from the rubric. So you need to know the rubric really well. Put it up on a wall in your bedroom, at home, or someplace that you frequent. Make up a rap. Make a video on it. Post it online. Record you reading the rubric and listen to it. Basically, do whatever works to help you to remember the rubric. Students also generally had good knowledge of the prescribed text and made a judicious selection of related text. Read or watch your prescribed text as many times as you can. There is really no better way to improve your knowledge. Supplement this by reading as many different essays as you can that discuss your text. Google Scholar is a great way to find these essays. Remember, good artists copy, great artists steal. This doesn't mean steal an entire essay. Steal words to use. Yeah, find great words that the person writing the essay has used. Remember, verbs are the muscles of your writing, so always be on the hunt for evocative verbs. Also, steal ideas about the text that you would like to write about. In regards to making a good selection of related text or texts, I'd recommend making sure your related text shares similar ideas to your prescribed text, is a different text type to your prescribed text, and has literary merit. I've made a video that makes suggestions about choosing a related text to maximize your marks, and you can view this video if you click on the image below. Students were also good at developing and sustaining a thesis that was well supported through purposeful structure and textual analysis. To construct a good thesis, make sure you're using the words or synonyms of words from the rubric. Some examples of thesis statements that use the language of the rubric are: the process of discovery is contingent on an individual's perspectives, assumptions, and beliefs. All discoveries begin with curiosity, but end with new understandings and renewed perceptions of ourselves. Texts are perspectives, not truths. However, through text we can discover truths about ourselves, others, and the world. Write out lots of thesis statements. Rewrite them. Try different wordings. Try synonyms. Speak the sentence out loud and listen to how it sounds. Play with the language. You need to sustain your thesis throughout your essay. The best way to do this is to create 3 or 4 sub-theses that build on your thesis. Then, you can scaffold your essay. I would recommend structuring your essay with an introduction that outlines your thesis and sub-theses. Then paragraph 2, where you talk about context. Paragraph 3, you write about form and structure. Paragraph 4, you write about language features. Now, make sure with your body paragraphs that you are analysing how the composer uses context, form, and language features to shape the responder's experience of discovery. Finally, you finish with a conclusion, and here you end with a personal evaluative statement. What these texts have shown you, the responder, about discovery. I believe that structuring the essay like this will help you to analyse the text rather than simply describing them. Make sure that within each paragraph you write is an integrated analysis of the text, and that you make insightful links between the texts. A great way to get these links down on paper is to draw up a compare and contrast diagram for your text. I'm sure every English teacher you've ever had has told you to answer the question. If you merely memorise an essay, it's extremely unlikely that you'll be answering the question. Every year, the members of the HSC exam committee sit down together and devise the HSC question from the rubric. I'd recommend you be your own exam committee. Devise your own questions from the rubric and then practice writing a variety of essays that follow the suggested structure. The final piece of advice from the markers is to make sure you reference text appropriately rather than relying on unwieldy acronyms. Write stopping by woods on a snowy evening rather than SBWOASE. There are rules about referencing. My table derives from the Modern Language Association, MLA, suggestions about referencing short text and long text. I believe the HSC markers are quite flexible about referencing, but you do need to make sure you are consistent with your referencing throughout your essay. And that's it. You've made it. I think discovery is a fascinating area of study. To distill the lesson down to its most fundamental components, I'd encourage you to read and reread or watch and rewatch your text as many times as possible. Find the key idea or theme of the text, which we link to the composer's purpose, and find the quote in each text that best exemplifies this central idea. Learn the rubric and use the language of the rubric in your thesis, subtheses, and topic sentences. Have a planned structure for your essay to make sure you analyse rather than just describe the text. Read the HSC Markers feedback from the previous year and learn from past student strengths and mistakes. So as the orchestra music begins to play, the final thing for me to do is to wish Year 12 students all the best with their studies and exams. Thanks so much for watching.